All right, hello, Monday Night Live. It is Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football podcast. We're live. I'm in somewhere north of Chicago. I think the other three are all in New York. We're live from New York. It's Monday night, except this one will be moderately funny. Maybe.
One of the worst skits I've ever seen in my entire life.
It was shocking. It was shocking to the point. I think it's just time to take it out back and it's over. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Jack's tweet. Like, this is the thing. Usually, I don't watch Saturday Night Live. Hand up, and never really have been a huge Saturday Night Live fan, like sitting down watching it every Saturday. But I see when people react now. When I got up and saw everything on Sunday, I was like, okay, this probably is a little bit of an overreaction. Like, it's probably going to be pretty shitty, but could it be that bad? It was worse than I could even imagine. Like, the way that people described it online was not as near as bad as it actually was.
Saturday Night Live died in 2016 when they had that woman go out there and play the piano after Trump won. Like, everyone was going to eventually die.
Oh, yeah.
Kate
McKinnon?
Yeah, Kate McKinnon came out and played on the white piano in a white. I forgot. She
played Hallelujah, right? Hallelujah.
And she was wearing the white suit that our woman's suit, the jumpsuit pantsuit that Hillary would always. Oh, that was hilarious. That's when SNL died that night, and it's never been back since.
All right, this show brought to you by the delicious, the wonderful, the amazing High Noon Hard Seltzer. Casey, take it away.
Yeah, you can visit highnoonspirits.com to find the packs. I know that, we're very spoiled where we are. We can just, walk down the street and find High Noon, but I know a lot of people sometimes struggle to find different flavors that they want, different packs that they want, even just to find it, because sometimes it is hard to find. So if you go to highnoonspirits.com or Drizly, or, your convenience store, liquor store in your state, whatever the liquor laws are, you're probably going to find High Noon. It's always good all year round, but holidays season is here. Sometimes people need a little bit of extra High Noon to get through the season, Katie. Sometimes people need a little bit of extra tangerine, maybe a little peach, maybe a little High Noon tequila to get through the family, the parties, all of that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's also for silver elephants, whatever you got, it's a perfect gift, especially for your coworkers. It's the gift of joy and happiness. What more could you possibly want?
Joy and happiness.
Joy and happiness.
Joy and happiness. And highnoonspirits.com, Brandon.
All right, so we got several things we can talk about. Casey's got an activity for us later. We have a Heisman Trophy winner. Nebraska is making noise for the first time in a while. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I guess we can start with Saturday night. We have a Heisman winner. It is, in fact, Jayden Daniels, LSU quarterback. He wins over the Pac-12 duo of Bo Nix and Michael Penix. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. was fourth, and on and so forth. One of those years where the player who had the best season was not on one of the two or three best teams. He was on a team that struggled, but his preponderance of evidence in his favor, the stats that he rolled up, was too overwhelming, and Jayden Daniels becomes a member of the three-loss Heisman winner club, which is pretty exclusive, but I think he deserved to be in it.
What do you say to the people that point out he never really had a moment? He didn't really play particularly well in his biggest games. And it's not just the losses. Johnny, when he won his Heisman, he had one of the greatest games, or iconic games in college football history.
Yeah.
Jayden definitely, every Heisman winner stat pads, but he put on a particularly padding performance against the Georgia State Armies and Gramblings.
So here's my thing on that. He struggled against Florida State when they lost by 17 points. He had 346 yards and a touchdown. The other two losses, he lost to Ole Miss, despite the fact he had 500 total yards and 5 touchdowns. He lost to Alabama, which he was having a remarkable game. I won't say he had almost 200 yards rushing, and then he went out with injury early in the fourth quarter. He was having one hell of a game. So 2 of the losses he was incredible in, And Heisman moments is just a lazy crutch for stupid media who wants to have an excuse on why they voted for something. That's all Heisman moments are. Heisman moments aren't real things. Like, I just off the top of my head, going back a few years, there are some obvious ones like Johnny's Heisman moment, beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa, so on and so forth. What was Devontae Smith's Heisman moment, the one-handed catch against LSU?
Yep.
I'm just trying to think out loud here of Heisman moments. Like, what was Baker Mayfield's Heisman moment? What was Kyler Murray's Heisman moment?
I think you look for a quote Heisman moment when you're looking for a guy like Jayden Daniels or Johnny or somebody whose team isn't winning everything. Because if LSU would have lost one game or maybe even two, but especially if they had only had one loss, I don't think anybody would be sitting here like, well, he didn't have a Heisman moment because they didn't have the losses. To me, that's something that you fall onto when you're trying to look for a reason to give somebody something because their team overall has lost. That's the way that it looks to me. Because like everybody, both of you guys just did it. I didn't even have to do it. People always accuse me of doing it. When you bring up Heisman moment, the first one everyone brings up is Johnny in 2012 beating Alabama. In reality, when you talk about Heisman Trophy winners, you usually don't go to that immediately unless it's somebody like Johnny. There's other examples, but that's actually I think that's more rare. I think usually when the guy wins the Heisman, you're like, they were just the best quarterback that year.
Just off the top of my mind, Cam Newton would be that crazy game against LSU they had, or maybe even the comeback against Alabama. Like, he had a couple. Lamar Jackson, that big time game he had against Florida State, I believe, that year, or maybe it was against Clemson. See, there you go, Sam. I might be proving it correct here. Joe Burrow Joe Burrow was winning in Alabama as well, I think.
And I would say,
go ahead. And Jack seems to be frozen.
Is Jack frozen or is it my computer? I
don't
know.
No, you go, Casey. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no. I don't know if it's my internet or if it's Jack's internet, but I'm just going to keep it rolling. I do think that there's big game moments for sure, but a lot of those guys, I mean, like Joe Burrow, it's like throughout the year, it was just like very clearly his award. I do think that Michael Penix losing a little bit of steam, like closer to the end of the season, obviously hurt him, but like, if you're looking for a big moment, obviously Michael Penix beating Bo Nix in Oregon twice, but it was so clearly obvious that Jayden Daniels was the most important guy on his team of the group that was there. Whether you can argue with that or not, I mean, it's very clearly to me, like without Jayden Daniels, that team loses a lot more than 3 games.
I will say to Jack's point, LSU was a little too egregious in their stat padding. Like LSU decided about, I don't know, November 1st that we're not going to win anything, but we can get the Heisman. And they decided balls to the wall. Jayden Daniels, you're playing like was it against Georgia State? He had 8 touchdowns and like
Georgia State. I mean,
go ahead.
What do you think about? And I see both sides here. What do you think of? And Casey, I'm just gonna ask this to Brian. Right? Think about fans celebrate.
Jackson, the New York office, which means Jack has no internet.
Yeah. Sorry, am I back?
Not really.
And I honestly, I'm on the edge of my seat because I'm like, what is he about to say that's going to piss me off?
I was going to ask about Heisman and schools, fans celebrating the Heisman as much as LSU did, especially when you have a season that doesn't amount to much, especially when you're a school that expect excellence. I mean, they won a national championship not too long ago.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. LSU should probably be above the absolute jubilation they had for this Heisman. I'm not saying they shouldn't be excited at all, but I mean, I saw these just crazy, exuberant, I can't believe it. I can't believe this is my life. Y'all lost to Ole Miss this year. Like that's not something – I don't know that you guys have had a successful season in the last 20, 30 years where you lost to Ole Miss, where you lost 3 times. So it was weird seeing a fan base that elite and that – I mean, LSU is one of the best fan bases in the country. Getting that excited over an individual award, which at the end of the day doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that question, and unfortunately, I agree with what you just said. LSU should probably be above it. LSU won a national championship just a few years ago with a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. When I was at A&M and Johnny won the Heisman, that's like the only thing that we've had in a long time. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I mean, they won, A&M won the Big 12 championship in 1998. outside of that, that was the best year A&M has had and had the Heisman Trophy winner and had one of the best players in college football history. So for us, that was a moment of celebration because that's the best it's been. That is the best that it has been in like 30, 40 years. So I get that. The crying for Jayden Daniels was bizarre to me. But then again, it's like, hey, you got a Heisman Trophy winner. They love him, whatever. I'm not going to like celebrate shame. But I do feel odd when it's like you just had Joe Burrow in a national championship just like 4 years ago. Like,
he is the only Heisman winner I can remember where we have video evidence of his former team saying whatever, he sucks when he transfers.
It's very weird. And again, celebrate all you want. Like LSU loves their guy, but LSU also like, and if you go back to the beginning of the season, I feel like when we did like our predictions, like I was like saying, I think Jayden Daniels doesn't get enough respect because it was like, he had an up and down season last year and they could have made the playoff and then they didn't, and all of these different things. It's like, I don't feel like they liked him that much until the season. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like they were like super, super high on him, but it doesn't matter. He's their quarterback. He won the Heisman. They can celebrate. But it did feel a little odd, Jack, to answer your question. However, I also was that excited when Johnny won, so I can't make fun of anybody.
Let me tell the future for y'all, because this transitions into another subject. Over the last few years, we've had certain fan bases just become as annoying as possible. I remember last year when Tennessee went to number one, how annoying that fan base was, because when they won games for the first time in 2 decades, their fan base was like, oh, isn't this great? College football is just better when Tennessee is good. No, you conceited hillbillies. It's just better for you. And that's about to happen again. It's about to happen again because in the middle of the country, Matt Rule is starting to stir at Nebraska, which means over the next 12 to 18 months, everything good they do will be a bunch of guys with GBR in their Twitter handle, goatee, ball cap, looking like Larry the Cable Guy, and they will all be saying, college football is just better when Nebraska's good. No, it's not. Let me stop you there. It's not. It's fine for the rest of us. It's the same for the rest of us. If you do get good, welcome back. But the reason you're saying it now is because it looks like they're starting to stir. Not only do you have Kyle McCord, who is leaving Ohio State, looks like he is starting to get crystal balled to Nebraska, but bigger than that, one of the top quarterbacks in the country who's been committed to Georgia forever, Dominic Raiola, looks like he has been crystal balled by Wiltfong to go ahead and flip to Nebraska. So they might get their quarterback of the present for next year. They might get their quarterback of the future. And if they do, Matt Rule and Nebraska do announce that they are, in fact, at least on the way back.
We already saw that kind of boil up this year when people celebrated Matt Rule's little speech as if it meant they were actually going to make a bowl for the first time in however many years. Spoiler alert, they didn't. They did not make a bowl. They lost. I think they lost every game after that. They lost the game to Michigan State.
Yeah, they were what? Were they 5-2 or 5-3, and then they finished 5-7?
I think 5-2.
5-3, I think.
Well, I know that they had to only win one game. They had to win one more game, and it was the early in the season or middle of the season.
They just really fell off at the end, which is unacceptable. And I understand the excitement, though. Dylan Raiola seems legit, and he's somebody that could be a program changer, especially if he believes. And obviously, he's a legacy. Or what was his uncle played there?
His dad, right?
His dad, yeah. So legacy, and that's all huge. And I want Nebraska to be good, but how long have we been saying that for? And
I don't care if they're good or not. I do think Matt Rule's a good coach, and I do think he is about to make some noise there. Like, listen, in the world of college football 2023, if you get to within 3 weeks of signing day and you potentially flip a 5-star quarterback from Georgia, you're playing ball. Like you're on the ball field again. And Nebraska hadn't been on the ball field in a while. Now, are there extenuating circumstances? Yeah, like the guy's a legacy at Nebraska. It is weird if you look at the current climate of recruits. Like Raiola moved to Buford, Georgia to be their quarterback this year, ostensibly to be closer to Athens. I think he put out an Instagram thing today where he was announcing thank you, Buford. It's been a great 3 months. Like he went there, played the season. They're done. He's just peacing out. Like he's weird.
He's gone to, I think, 4 or 5 high schools. He's Mr. That's another thing and that was something that Coach JB told us, Jason Brown, when we had him on this year or on the off season. He was telling us these kids are transferring just as much in high school. And Dylan Raiola, I think, has gone to 4 or 5 high schools. Now there's other circumstances, but that's not the best signs. But he is unanimous number 1, I believe, or consensus.
No, there are high schools in this country that are basically colleges. I mean, Buford over there in Georgia just gets whoever they want to come play for Buford. I mean, that's just how life is. But it's one of those things. Good for Nebraska. When you hire a new coach, I can take or leave year one. Like, they finished 5-7. Should they have made a bowl? Yeah. But year one doesn't really matter. What matters is the excitement you build during year one, and then going into year two, can you turn that into something tangible on the football field? We'll see. But, I mean, hell, Kyle McCord to be his interim starter for next year into Raiola would be a hell of a start.
And it also, in this day and age of NIL money, and obviously there being like outwardly paychecks going to kids, like, and I'm not saying that's the only reason why, but if you're a Nebraska fan, or if you're a fan of anybody in the country and you start seeing big time recruits flipping from places like Georgia to come to your school, you have to assume that there's some sort of NIL deal in place, or some sort that you're like, wow, we're opening up the checkbook. Again, we don't know if that's true. You can assume it. But if you're a fan at Nebraska and you're like, we've not been relevant in decades, we've struggled at quarterback. We were at the game at Nebraska, Brandon. It is a sad sight to see. Like, that stadium is full, it's sold out, and within seconds, the air is sucked out of it. Because
but Michigan.
They're playing Michigan. I get that. But still, like, as a whole, it's like these fans are just begging. I would say that of all the crowds we had, probably the biggest one we had was at Nebraska. These fans want their program to be so good so badly. And it's like, hey, if you can get guys to flip from Georgia, or you can get guys like Kyle McCord, you're doing something right. It needs to show out on the field, but at least they're looking like they're trying to make a play at being one of the most relevant programs again.
Yeah, and that's what a couple of teams are doing right now. There's the transfer portal just being confusing as it is. Like, Dylan Gabriel comes out of Oklahoma. He ends up at Oregon. He goes to Oregon to supplant Bo Nix, which is probably good. It's a smart move for Dylan Gabriel for Oregon. They'll just continue the mojo they have there at quarterback. Makes sense. Now, Ohio State, though, they're all in on a transfer quarterback. I assumed it was going to be somebody like Cam Ward. I assumed it would be, somebody big time. Cam Ward is visiting Miami tomorrow. Like, I would have thought Ohio State would have locked somebody down by now. Maybe that's a naive thought by me. Maybe I'm not looking at the big picture. Maybe I'm just stupid. But as the number one college football media personality in the country, something doesn't smell right about Ohio State not locking down their guy yet.
Well, I was going to say there's no way that the number one college football media personality in the country could be stupid. I mean, that's impossible. It's statistically impossible. I agree with you. I think that because we talked about Kyle McCord and how he was, made the choice to leave. And it was like probably a conversation behind closed doors of like, hey, you are going to have to compete for the starting job next year. So if you don't want to do that, you better enter the transfer portal. To me, that says you've got somebody in place that you can say is going to be competing with him. Like, if you don't have somebody that you truly think could take over his seat as a starting quarterback, bad move by Ohio State. Maybe we're not seeing something clearly or not, but I don't think that you go into your starting quarterback and say, you got to go, if you don't have somebody that you think could actually make him go.
They do have Devin Brown. They do have a freshman that came in this year who's from Utah. I forget his name. It's a weird name. And then they do have Air Nolan. Oh, yeah. They have Air Nolan coming in next year.
But I don't feel like that's you go tell Kyle McCord, who lost one game this year, that he needs to enter the transfer portal.
No, I agree.
Like, you can say there's a kid behind you that is going to end up being the starting quarterback here. You better get your shit together if you don't want to lose it now. Not you're going to have to go play somewhere else if you want to start.
Let's just play a quick game and a quick inside Barstool game. Over here at the Chicago office, we're doing White Elephant next week. And our Chicago email list has, Paige, who runs the office, emailed everybody and said, hey, White Elephant, White Elephant. There's one person who continually is replying all and saying, what is White Elephant? Tell me more. And then the next person Googled it and showed this person. And the person keeps replying all to it. Does anybody have a guess who it might be?
Mincy.
2 options.
You have 2 options.
I was going to do very White Sox Dave and I was about to say Nikki Smokes, but I think Nikki Smokes would know what a white elephant is. So I want to say White Sox Dave.
White Sox Dave. All right, good guesses, Katie. Both wrong because Casey and Jack were dead on.
I mean, I feel like that was the most obvious answer of all time. And he's just continuing to reply all?
Yeah, I don't know.
People not know Google? Like, I have people asking me for memes, and I'll send them back the Google image search results. I'm like, Grim Reaper knocking on doors. Google images. It's great.
It's so missed.
All right, Jack, you want to talk about Pro Football GM?
Yeah, I do. I love talking about Pro Football GM. As I pull up my little banner on the bottom, I love talking about Pro Football GM because it reminds me of my favorite app that I picked up on the App Store. Or if I didn't want to go on the App Store, I could go to barstoolgm.com and find out about this simulation game that you essentially become the owner and the GM of a franchise. And if you look a little further in the app, you'll find you'll be able to download some rosters that are very current of some teams that may play throughout the week. There may be some teams playing tonight that you could download the rosters for. And then you become not only the GM, but you also become an owner. You get to decide if you want to build a new stadium, X, Y, Z. You have limitless opportunities here, all right? If you think you're going to become a GM and you would be a good GM, this is where you start. I think we'll have a GM in the NFL one day that started on the Pro Football GM. And when that person starts, they should go and use code BARSTOOL in the game store for a 100% free boost to your franchise. That's right. Use code BARSTOOL at barstoolgm.com or look up Ultimate Pro Football GM in the App Store. And when you use the code BARSTOOL in the game store, you get a 100% free boost to your franchise.
So I was watching obviously everybody was watching the Chiefs game yesterday, the Chiefs and the Bills, and there was that huge play where Tony was offsides, and it wiped off one of the most memorable plays we'll ever see. It was an incredible touchdown. Oh my God, it was amazing. It got me to thinking, thought exercise very quickly. I didn't tell you all I was going to do this, so you don't have to have one in your mind. Maybe the chat can weigh in. What is the most iconic college football play that didn't count? Or what's the most memorable college football play that didn't count or got called back? The one that springs to mind immediately for me is 1992 Sugar Bowl, the play where George Teague ran down Lamar Thomas from like 20 yards back to prevent a long touchdown by Miami, and he wrestled the ball from behind him. The George Teague play, everybody remembers it? Iconic? Didn't count.
Didn't count.
It was wiped off due to offsides. So, but it was still an iconic play. It just didn't count.
I'm trying to think of one that this one's tough because I feel like most of my college football memories from a certain point are when I was younger, and I don't remember anything with A&M happening. I'm trying to think.
It's not, there's a category of them, but it's always those last minute. I think Rutgers had one this year of the longest backyard football where it's just shuttle. And there's always one pass that's just one hair from being not lateral. Otherwise, I think Rutgers had one that was very, very close this year that would have worked.
The LSU punter, who is it? Brad Wingo?
Brad Wing.
He on that fake punt, he scored a touchdown, and they called it back against Florida. I mean, it didn't really impact the game that much, but I do believe that it was called back. So that's what I thought of last night.
Somebody's got a great one. Shadow Bearded. The Iowa punt return they had this year to beat Minnesota that was called back for the phantom fair catch.
That was not that we spent hours deciding how high the man's hand was.
That was a fair catch.
It was above the shoulder or not.
It went against Iowa, so we will always.
Well, there's also I feel like there's a lot more that you can look at that you feel should have been called back that weren't, right? There are a lot of plays guys stepped out or didn't step out. Even on wasn't there something with the kick six? Wasn't the kick six controversial too? Or no?
Well, no. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, he almost stepped out of bounds, but he didn't.
But people thought he did in the moment.
In the moment, they probably hoped he did.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I can go ahead and tell you, looking at the chat. I can go ahead and tell you. Yeah.
What's happening?
I'm gonna have to hurt some Nebraska feelings next year, Anna.
What's happening?
I think
I can't read.
It's all Nebraska people. GBR, go Big Red. You got to recruit, guys. And you used to do this all the time. Don't you think? There was a scene in Little Big League, the 1994 movie about Billy Haywood taking over the Minnesota Twins, where in about August, his favorite player, Jerry, gets a hit through the right side, and he just jumps up and down and yells and tells everybody, "Oh my God, y'all see that?" And the pitching coach is like, "Son, don't you think it's a problem when you get this excited for a seeing eye single?" Nebraska fans, don't you think it's a little bit of a problem that you're getting this excited over somebody that hasn't proven anything?
I'm not just standing up for Nebraska fans. I'm standing up for everybody that's been in their position. Brandon, I don't know what it feels like to have the run that they had in the 90s, because Nebraska was college football in the 90s. And I'd assume that most of these people that are listening to us either like were really young. I mean, actually, I shouldn't age shame. I don't know. Maybe you were living through it. Maybe you were in college. I don't know. But they've been begging to be back to that. And if you think there's even an ounce, even a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel that can get you back to the 90s, you wouldn't be excited.
You know, I don't really get that excited. I don't sit here and yell when my team does anything. I don't yell when my team gets a recruit. I'm very measured the whole time. It's not that big of a deal. Just everybody relax. Everybody relax.
I honestly and I know you say you don't believe one team is specifically good for college football. And maybe this is because I mean, I've told this story on Unnecessary Roughness plenty of times. My next door neighbors growing up were all Nebraska fans, all went to Nebraska. So I watched that as a very young child, what it was like to not be a winner because I was watching them do it. Nebraska is a team because they have nothing else there. No offense. They have nothing else in Nebraska. When Nebraska football is good, it is better for the sport.
It's not.
I mean,
no, it's not. It's not. There's no team out there bigger than the sport.
Well,
None of
no,
them.
I do agree with that.
Right. So,
but it's more. Okay, it is to me when Nebraska is good, and Nebraska is because these guys have again nothing there. The passion that comes out of them being good is really exciting to watch. Where it's like USC. They have a million other things to do there. Miami, they have a million other things to do there. Now,
I would argue that college football is awesome when Miami's good. College football is awesome when USC's good. Guess what? College football is awesome. And it doesn't really matter who's up at the time. It's still awesome.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe it's just because my brain is hammered into remembering how good Nebraska was. But I think if you are a team that knows what it's like to win and you haven't done it in decades and you think that you might have the guy that can do it, it's okay to be happy.
They don't know what it's like to win.
Nebraska?
No, they don't know. 20 years is a long time. That's a generation.
But I'm saying I don't know how old these people are that are listening or watching. But think about it. If Tommy Walker ends up being a Mississippi State fan, you guys can share in the despair. I can share in the despair with my dad. What if you were a Nebraska fan and you were telling Tommy Walker, "Hey, I got to go to school and live through the 90s and all those," you'd be like, "That's awesome."
If I were a Nebraska fan, I'm almost certain Tommy would be an Iowa fan.
Just to spite you?
That's just how life goes. All right, you have an activity?
I do. Well, it's every time you call an activity, by the way, it makes me feel like a school teacher.
So many activities. We have
so many activities, so much room for activities. So obviously we're in that period right now where, Army Navy is over, which by the way, that over in Army Navy was crazy. I mean,
I had it. I never say anything like it. I don't know. But here's the thing. Navy did all that work to get down the field. And
that's why I'm with you, Brandon. Navy was on the 3-yard line and they could have also, a lot of people had 28. It was great to get your money back. Obviously it's a push, but a lot of people had 28. It was better than nothing. I'm not complaining, but yeah, it was special. I don't know if it was it. I've seen worse or better, depending on what side you were on.
A walk-off safety to cover by half a point for a lot of people is incredible, but to me, Navy did all that work to get back in the game and did all that to get down the field, and then just went with the most simple quarterback sneak from a yard and a half out. That I just like, it was just a bizarre set of circumstances there at the end. I thought
It was very bizarre.
we should have won that game. Is what I'm trying to say.
A lot of drama for that. But we are in the period of time now where it's like Army-Navy is over. We've got bowl games coming up, and it's like a dead period. So I thought of just like 5 look-ahead questions, not including the college football playoff, because obviously we're going to talk about that ad nauseum, but just some overall general bowl season questions for the group.
Go.
Again, excluding the college football playoff, which team do you think going into this bowl season has the most to gain by a win moving forward?
I mean, I just don't see a world where it's not Florida State. Like, and I know both Georgia and Florida State don't want to be there, and I know it's going to be the opt-out bowl, and I know it's not going to be. But ending the season at this point 13-1 and ending the season 14-0 are just 2 wildly different things for Florida State. There are others, and I'm seeing in the chat, like Mizzou would benefit hugely from beating Ohio State. Ohio State doesn't give a fuck about beating Mizzou. I think Ole Miss would benefit incredibly by beating Penn State. There are teams out there that if they win these games, it's big for them, but none more so than Florida State. Even if they don't, it's not their actual team, it's not Georgia's actual team, the optics of them winning the game would be terrific for them.
And I know we've all joked around about like how they can, they'll claim a national championship, and, like Dan said on the college football show, it'll be like the, another split national championship. But do you not, and this is just a question, do you not also see where, I mean, yes, I see the point where if they win, but do you not also see a thing where they're down so bad and they're just like, like we were so snubbed that we don't even want to play this game, and like people just feel sorry for them, like it's almost like a pity if they lose?
Yeah, no, I don't think Florida State or Georgia want to play that football game. I really don't. I don't know how much you're going to get. I don't know if you're going to get Florida State's best. I don't know if you're going to get Georgia's best. That's the one bowl game to me. And there's always 1 or 2 where both teams are just checked out. And I think, like, have you seen the Zooms and the press conferences? Kirby's basically got his cell phone recruiting right there. He doesn't give a fuck about the questions. Mike Norvell doesn't want to be there. But again, the actual optics of winning or whatever. Michael Davis says most obvious take ever, Brandon. Why the fuck are you here? Yeah, it's an obvious take because it's the fucking truth. I mean, that's the truth. There's nothing.
I will say
sometimes the truth is obvious.
It's also just like a question. I mean, again, we're in a dead period, folks. We got to talk about
No. I think it's a great question. I think Brandon's answer is the correct answer. Here's what I'm going to throw out. I think Ohio State winning would be a really big deal because it means Devin Brown played really well. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it means more than Florida State, but I do think it would be spectacular for them, because I'm with you, Brandon and Casey. You guys were talking about this earlier. It feels weird right now with Ohio State, and I don't know. And I think Devin Brown. The only thing is, Devin Brown was here the whole season. Yeah, it wasn't like he couldn't come in. It wasn't like he was hurt. He came in. He didn't really play amazing, and the McCord thing seems like he was told to leave. So a win there with Devin Brown, let's say they put up 35, 42 points. I think that means a lot. Also, Titus said this great, Brandon. By the way, love for those who are listening to this show, tune in to Mostly Sports. It's an amazing show. I can't say it enough, and it's amazing to see it do as well as it's doing. Even though you have Ebo and TJ on it, but all joking aside, Titus said it perfectly. The little Marvin Harrison thing that he's doing right now is unbelievable. He's like, I'm thinking about coming back. Yeah. He's not coming back.
Well, CJ Stroud did it too last year. Remember where he was like, I'm thinking about coming back. No, you're not. You are not. And Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, that's just, I don't care about NIL or what a team can pay you. That's great. That's fantastic. You make your money in the pros by getting to your second contract. You got to get to your second contract as soon as you can. There's no way he's coming back.
100%.
But
sorry for making the game pause.
No. I actually like that. But I mean, here's a thought. He's obviously not coming back. But in this day and age, I know you said you don't care about NIL, Brandon, but isn't there also kind of like you got to see what offers you might get?
Not if your other offer is guaranteed top 5 money in the NFL.
But don't you know? Well, yeah, I mean, but like if you know, just to see, I'm not saying he's even remotely thinking about it, but in the day and age where you can at least hear what they are going to say to you, have an agent just like play the game a little bit, because you don't have to declare yet. It's not like you have to declare or you can hear the offers. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe I'm staying. What do you guys want to give me?
I think Marvin's father, but I don't want to talk too much about, because I don't really know him, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I think Marvin's father was very much against Marvin taking a lot of NIL. He was like, just focus on football. We have money. Don't worry about that. And I think I think there were schools out there that were willing to pay him a lot of money to transfer this year, and he didn't want to. So it'll be interesting. Someone said 20 million. I think Shannon Terry, right, over at On 3 said it is the most false rumor in the history of college football.
And listen, if you're Ohio State, that doesn't make sense for them either, because I know these big schools have a lot of money and it's almost endless, but it isn't endless. And if you're trying to build teams from year to year, you don't spend $20 million on a receiver. Not with who they got coming back. Anyway,
unless you've got just like one guy that's just like sitting at home, just like wanting to spend his money, just like, you know what, Marvin Harrison Jr. is my guy. I just want to give him the money.
Yeah, but here's the thing: Marvin Harrison Jr. probably the most talented player in the country this year. It didn't beat Michigan.
Yeah,
it didn't get to the playoff. It didn't get them to where they needed to go.
Well, and back to like Jack, when you said like there's something weird going on, like as we've all said, not just tonight, but just in general, like that is telling you how down bad Ohio State as a whole is, because they lost one game this year, but it's the one game that they cannot lose. And now that they've lost 3 in a row, it's like everything around them is crumbling. Like whether the rumors are true that Ryan Day's trying to get out or not, the fact that that's even out there, they lost one game this year. You know how many teams would kill to lose one game a season?
I'd like to bring up a topic inside of this. Go ahead, Jack.
Go for it.
I just want to say, Ohio State fans, I'm almost like, I think the YKB boys need to come down and maybe do a visit at your school and just say, guys, relax. Like it's, I know, I mean, we're getting close to a decade without a natty, but you're right there. You're right there. You still have one of the biggest brands in college football, one of the best programs, and you're not that far off. So it's like, I know it feels like death right now, but just stay the course.
So I have a question for you guys, and then we'll get back to your questions. What did y'all guys think of Marvin Harrison Jr. winning the Biletnikoff Award for the best receiver in the country? Because I don't know that many people will argue he is the most talented wide receiver in the country. But from a pure numbers perspective this year, he was good, not great. I mean, or not overwhelmingly great. Like Malik Neighbors at LSU had far better numbers than Marvin Harrison Jr. He had 20 more catches, 400 more yards, and the same amount of touchdowns. Which Marvin Harrison Jr. is incredible, and won based on the fact that he is the most talented. So, and when it comes to that, do y'all go eye test of most talented, or do y'all want to reward the stats? Which direction would you go, Jack?
The only thing I want to add here is, did you see LSU's tweet?
I did not.
They had a tweet on Friday, or that would be Saturday. It was just a picture of Malik Neighbors, and it just said most hated.
Okay. He lost by 1 vote, didn't he?
I know. Like the LSU marketing machine. All that being said, I think I thought Malik Neighbors was going to win. But
did you see on October 29th, they did a video of Jayden Daniels. He didn't know what it was. They're just doing some like media promo. They had a screen behind him. They're like, hey, just look at the camera, smile, nod. And it was a Heisman celebration behind him. So they filmed their Heisman promo for him back October 29th without him knowing of like, that kid is the Heisman. Like that team does everything.
I think that's smart media. Like we know at Barstool how much planning we'll do for stuff that won't even happen. Like you, Katie, like you make these shirts that never see the light of day. And even though they're amazing shirts, like they don't see the light of day. So the Heisman's a little bit different though, because it's like you don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, it is funny. Like who was to then, if he didn't win it, go into the files just press delete and just pretend
Yeah.
it never happened.
Here's my question, Brandon, for you with the Biletnikoff,
Mhm.
because usually, it's like, I think Neighbors got robbed for sure, but it's kind of the same question of like, okay, was Malik Neighbors a product of who he had at quarterback? Because obviously Jayden Daniels won the Heisman. We think he's the best quarterback in the country. Or Marvin Harrison Jr., we said, when we watched those games all year, if he even had a quarterback that could remotely get him the ball half the time, it wouldn't even be close to be Marvin Harrison Jr. So maybe that's where voters were looking at it, where it was like,
the only thing I don't like about that argument is Marvin Harrison Jr. had about 4 games where he just no-showed. And you can tell me it was a quarterback. Okay, well, against Penn State, he had 11 catches for 200 yards. He had the same quarterback. You telling me he couldn't show up in the other games when he had 3 catches for 18 yards? Like, he no-showed several games this year.
Yeah, I just wonder if that's maybe the reasoning, because it was just like, we always, like, we've seen multiple years, where like there's a Heisman quarterback wide receiver duo that can end up in New York all season. And we're like, well, who do you give more credit to? I don't know if that's why, but obviously I think, we know Marvin Harrison Jr. as an athlete has been talked about that. Okay. So my second question, we did who has the most to gain. Pretty easy. Next question is, who do you think has the most to lose? Because a lot of times going into bowl season, unless you're in the semifinals, unless you're playing for something, most people are like, who actually cares if you win or lose the bowl game? However, there are teams that go out there and, like you said, have things to gain if they win. Do you think, I guess maybe that's even, is there a team out there that you think has the most to lose in bowl season?
I don't know that I do, because so many of these games just don't really matter as much as they used to. It's a shame, but that it is the truth. I guess I would have to go back. If Florida State gets railroaded, if they lose by 4 touchdowns, it's going to be a lot of "see, we told you so." It is.
Yeah, and regardless of how they come out and play or what, I think that it goes back to, like, if I'm a Florida State fan, I'm so fucking angry. Like, I don't even want to watch that game. And then you have to go and you have to play Georgia. Like, Georgia is one of probably the best 4 teams in the country. I think most people could probably agree with that. Maybe not, or you can at least make the argument. Georgia is dangerous. Now, Georgia also probably doesn't want to be there just as much as Florida State doesn't want to. But, like, after Florida State gets snubbed the way that they did, they have to go play Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even get handed like a Liberty.
No, like, life sucks and then you die.
So wouldn't Oregon be on this list? They go from playing the Pac-12 championship, favored, on the doorstep.
They can't lose. Oregon losing is not a possibility.
But that's what I'm saying. They have the most to lose.
They have the most to lose.
Oregon is playing probably the most undeserving New Year's Six bowl participant of all time. There's no reason Liberty's in this game. It's ridiculous Liberty's playing in this game. They had the 133rd ranked schedule in the country. They played a high school schedule, and it got them to the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, no, it's god awful. So Katie just answered the question. Oregon has the most to lose, because if Oregon goes out there and loses that game after everybody's kicking and screaming about Liberty being there, then okay.
We're gonna have
third question.
We're gonna have this issue with Liberty every year now, because they're gonna go 12-0 in Conference USA or 11-1 if they play a big time Power 5 school, because Conference USA is bad. And yeah, I guess no, it's bad. It's bad. All
right, Katie, what's her name on the top?
Blonde, Casey.
Blonde,
okay.
Go.
Which storyline of either a new quarterback, a new coach, are you most looking forward to playing out in, like, starting in bowl season? Because as we've talked about a lot, bowl season is not necessarily the end of this season, it's the beginning of next season. So is there a storyline that you're pointing to outside of those college football playoff games that you think will be the most intriguing and entertaining for you?
Well, who are the next guys? Like, does Tennessee let Nico go? Do they let that happen? I'm trying to think. Exactly. Oh, Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma. Does he? I mean, does he turn it loose? Do they just go balls to the wall with Jackson Arnold in this bowl game? Because if they do, I mean, it shows you a glimpse of what's to come for those guys, and on and so forth. But I would say Jackson Arnold's one of them. Like, he is Oklahoma's starter next year, lock, stock, and barrel, no questions. We're about to see the future of Oklahoma football, for good or for bad. I'm sure it's for good. Those are the two that come to my mind, because Nico has to get ready for a volleyball game and is missing the bowl. Am I out of the loop?
Wait, what?
Wait,
I'm reading a chat.
Oh, I think that's just a joke.
Okay.
Unless he's back in the volleyball game. He is very good at volleyball, but I think it's one of those situations he gave up volleyball to play football. He's the first anime quarterback that we have in college football, so we got to keep an eye on him.
Speaking of quarterbacks playing different sports, we talked about Hartman going and playing lacrosse?
Buckner.
No, Buckner. Sorry, Buckner going to play.
I'm about to say, if we haven't talked, don't let Jack go on Sam Hartman.
We do have to talk about Sam Hartman. I would like to announce, everybody.
Jack has an announcement.
I am also sitting out of the Sun Bowl. I will not be playing in the Sun Bowl. I have an interview with an accounting firm.
His announcement was bad. It looked like he was like a hostage video. Like, I could have edited something better than that. If someone has been in here that long, he looked like he was having like paid to say that.
Also, I think Buckner is a great point from Mike. Buckner's going to play lacrosse. Then he'll play football in the fall. It's just for transfer roles.
All right.
Is that how that works?
You can't.
Yeah.
He is really good at lacrosse, though, I will say.
Bear Bryant used to give out 200 scholarships a year.
Okay, Brandon.
That's such a random.
He did.
That's like
there were equivalent to 4-star guys back then on swimming scholarships at Alabama.
A lot of them get track and field.
No.
Imagine like in this day and age, like a middle linebacker also like on the swimming and diving team, just throwing it in there just to get him on the roster, like just a big ass dude swimming and diving. Okay, Brandon, if you could play in a bowl game that is not the college football playoff this year, which one would you want to play in?
I'd be like my favorite video ever from bowl season, which was, I can't remember if it was Central or Western Michigan. I think it was Central Michigan. But when they were telling their team where they were going, and they did a video, I watch it every year. They start eliminating bowls. It's like the Quick Lane Bowl, the Music City Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl, and then the Bahamas Bowl. And they just keep eliminating bowls one by one. And the players get to yelling. And finally, they tell them they're in the Bahamas Bowl. So, you know what? If I'm going to play in a meaningless football game, take me to the Bahamas.
That's a good one. I was going to say the Pop-Tart Bowl because I want to eat the Pop-Tart. But you know what? I guess if I'm going to spend a week anywhere, I'd want to spend a week in the Bahamas.
Katie knows the right answer. What's the right answer, Katie?
The Barstool Arizona Bowl?
Yeah. The Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl.
I will say, when we went to the campus, that campus is beautiful. It's sunny. I didn't do it because I don't want to give his ego, but David Blattman, a producer here, all he talks about Arizona. I was this close to giving him credit and saying, hey, you were right about Arizona. It is stunning there.
Never give Blattman credit for anything.
I got some bad news about Arizona.
What?
They like misplaced $200 million plus, and they're broke. Like the school's broke.
I'm actually
also,
Thursday
their ballots, man. You want to talk about their ballots? We can spend the next hour.
I was about to say, well, Jack will be here talking about Arizona and their ballots while we're watching Surviving Barstool.
Thursday morning, I'm getting on a plane and going to Laramie, Wyoming, where I'll be talking to the Wyoming Cowboys and Craig Bowl.
Horse?
Yeah. I told him, I said, I'll go out there, but I'm not getting on the bowl again.
That was such a good video.
I was hoping you were going to get on the bull again.
Yeah, I had a bruise for a month.
Yeah, the great content. And all in the name of content.
I do plenty of content. I don't need bruises all over my body.
Yeah.
I put my finger in a mousetrap today. Look at that.
I dropped a 45-pound weight on my toe yesterday.
For what?
I threw up in the sink.
Accident.
Placed a weight. I thought I broke my foot.
Continue.
Brandon, so when you go out there, so like last year, weren't you stuck in like a blizzard or something?
So I had to get out of there fast. So I had to change my flight to the morning because I had to beat There was blizzard conditions. They were shutting down the roads. I had to get out of there quickly. So they moved me up. I was supposed to be going on like Thursday afternoon. They called me Wednesday night and said, "You got to go now." All right. I got on a plane and left.
But here's what you should do. You can't ride the real bull, which I understand why you wouldn't, because I think you should have been in the hospital for that bruise. That's how bad that was. Go ride one of like the bulls at a bar.
I don't want to be a basic bitch. I might ride the bull.
There should be some like cool content should come out. There's an interview and then like try something Wyoming based.
I know how I can do it.
Please don't, because this is it. I can't have
Guys,
you.
You're talking to the #1 college football person.
Thank you, Jack. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Right? We don't need to tap him on the head and be like, "You get to go do your little content." Nah, he's going to come back with some great top tier content.
For sure.
If he doesn't have to be on a bull, he doesn't have to. If he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to.
By the way, I clicked over to the chat just for this because I wanted to see, and somebody said, Ryan Willing said, "Hospital for a bruise." Sir, this was not a bruise. This was like, I think that he might have exploded organs.
I think I probably lost a kidney that day.
Like, it was the worst. Like, a bruise doesn't even begin to describe what I thought happened to your body.
It was disgusting, frankly. It was disgusting. And y'all didn't see it till like a week later.
I think you sent a picture, or Katie sent a picture or something, and then I saw it when we were in Arizona, and it was
bad.
It
was colors I didn't know a bruise could be. All right, how many questions do you have?
I only have one left. Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
If it was not these 4 teams in the college football playoff, all 4 of them out off the table, who would be the best 4-team playoff this bowl season?
I think that this is one of the crazier seasons, because I think you can have the top 4 is going to be a great playoff. Great. Michigan, Alabama, Texas, and the other team, Washington. If Jordan Travis had not got hurt, the next 4 would also be incredible. The next 4 being Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State, and Oregon. That would be awesome too. Like that, I think that is the first time we had, and I know Oregon lost twice, so they really not like the others. But that would be awesome. Those 4 would be great.
It would be awesome. So this is where I was going to now with the last question. If you could take all of those 8 teams, Jordan Travis is healthy, your dream playoff of those top 8 teams for this bowl season, who would it be?
Well, I would have loved to have I'd love to have a healthy Travis. I wish Georgia had gotten it done against Alabama, because I think Georgia's probably a better team than Alabama. Just that day they weren't, because Kirby Smart reverted to being scared. Michigan, Texas, Georgia, Florida State would have been pretty sweet.
It's pretty good.
And Alabama, Florida State's fine too.
I think the more that I think about this, though, I mean, the path for Nick Saban to like win it all after all the drama and have to potentially beat Texas again to do it, like, it's just writing itself. I don't think it's going to happen, but I can see the writing on the wall.
Boy, I mean, it could very well happen.
Imagine. It's just like, that's just so, like, it would be perfect for the end of the college football playoff for 4 teams for Nick Saban to do it. But it sucks because I'm so excited for the 12-team playoff. Because I completely agree. I think that this playoff, if it was expanded this year, would be so great. Outside of the semifinal games, it's just like, I know it's college football and we love college football and it's awesome and we're going to watch all of it. And if you gamble, you're going to gamble on all of it. This bowl season just has no pop to it outside of the playoff. Sucks.
And the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl.
Of course. Well, I just, that's just like inherently built in. And
I might ride a bull.
Please don't hurt yourself again.
Just get it on camera if you do.
No.
Why would I? Hold on, Katie. Why on earth would I go ride a bull without the camera being on?
I know you know. I'm saying for the people.
Jack, you're right. These people are just out here like, I'm the #1 college football personality in the country. You think I'm not going to have a camera on me?
Also, there's a banner that says it now. You can't deny a banner.
Did y'all see my banner?
I know. I'm kind of mad I didn't do it myself, but
we need to get a replica one here so we can hang it up here.
A better one, though.
I think I'm going to sell small.
No, replica.
You're going to sell them?
Yeah, I'm going to sell. I would probably sell thousands. I would say.
#1 YKB boy.
He's got to pay for the rings somehow. Like, let's not forget.
Brandon, who was it that Dave threw under the bus when we talked about you being the #1 media personality for just like no reason?
Josh Pate.
Pate. He was like, who the fuck is Pate State? I was like, what did Josh Pate do?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think he thought Pate wrote that. That's why.
But that Dave doesn't know college football. Like he just doesn't.
Boomer Zoomer was funny. I'm using that from now on.
It was just like he had no idea what it was, and he was just like throwing shade at Pate. And I was like, he didn't do anything wrong.
Speaking of shout outs, let me give a shout out to my guy. If this don't let me see if I get it right. If this don't light your fire, your wood's wet, something like that.
Sounds
I
right.
do like that hoodie.
Yeah. So West Blankenship, this Coffeetown High School. So shout out to Reptile Henderson and Ronnie and Donnie Chug, I think. I don't remember their names. But anyway.
Big Cat would like that. It's Coffee Town.
Shout out to these guys.
Shout out to them. In just a few minutes, shout out to Surviving Barstool. That's why we're going to end right now.
Yeah, you can end it. Let these mediocre motherfuckers take over.
Barstool.tv.
wow, he left.
Hi, Brandon.
He's bitter about Barstool.
Oh, I'm still here. What
Yeah,
happened?
we can hear you.
I didn't do anything. I'm still here. What happened to my camera?
Barstool.tv. It's
Don't say
not on
anything you'll
YouTube.
regret.
What the fuck happened to my camera?
You're back.
Now the
Welcome.
wrong camera.
Yeah.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Goodbye.